in the shadows of collapsing empires and eroding trust in financial institutions, a tectonic shift is actually underway. The Western-led proof of weapons fiat regime that's built on coercion, debt monetization and asset stripping is being challenged, and not by armies or political parties, by protocol, right? So Bitcoin is the ultimate instrument of peaceful resistance, and it's quietly replacing the dollar's violent dominance with a new form of economic sovereignty that's rooted in proof of work. And what we're witnessing is the great unwinding of the debt-fueled unipolar world and the birth of a decentralized multipolar era. So in this video, we are looking at how Bitcoin actually exposes the fiat Ponzi and how you can escape the fiat trap in a post-dollar era. All right, so when we look at this idea of proof of weapons to proof of work, since World War II, the US dollar has been propped up by a sprawling network of military bases, petrodollar agreements, and also debt-fueled consumption. It was never merely a currency, but a weapon, right? So through IMF structural adjustment programs, regime change, wars, and control over global settlement rails, Washington enforced its will using debt as a primary export. But the pillars are starting to crumble now as we're looking at the debt ceiling fast, right? Yield curves are distorted beyond recognition. The dollar's global utility is definitely decaying, and most telling is the very idea that the bankers, the technocrats, and the hedge funds themselves are quietly abandoning the ship, and Bitcoin is standing direct in opposition, a trustless, finite system that doesn't require allegiance to a nation state or the whims of a central bank, right? It just literally monetizes energy and not violence. And as major players are starting to now accumulate it, while also simultaneously inflating away the dollar, they are signaling the end of that fiat era. So when we look at the rise of the financial deep state, this is where it starts to get really interesting, because the collapse of the fiat system isn't a chaotic accident, right? It's actually an engineered transition from Operation Choke Point 2.0 to coordinated bankruptcies of crypto native banks. Regulators have definitely weaponized compliance to eliminate grassroots alternatives, and the goal is to consolidate control under compliant entities like BlackRock or Galaxy Digital or Cantor Fitzgerald, the firms that are now building these Bitcoin honeypots for institutional capture. And meanwhile, these public figures like Trump are selling economic nationalism, quietly facilitating asset transfer abroad. Trump towers are actually starting to rise in places like Qatar, right? And not Kansas. Foreign direct investment is euphemized as patriotism, while America's industrial base is gutted to service yield extraction for pension funds and banks. And the playbook is definitely clear: a debt trap that is, crashing the alternatives here, monopolizing the rails, and reintroducing Bitcoin as a collateralized asset that's controlled by Wall Street, right? So this is not decentralization, it's in fact enclosure. So when you look at all of this happening, you also see that stable coins are getting weaponized. The dollar demand is collapsing abroad. US banks and shadow institutions are racing to issue stable coins that are backed by US treasuries, and these instruments are promising a digital dollar renaissance, but are actually Trojan horses. In my opinion, they're designed to soak up that global liquidity and funnel it into US debt to ensure the average investor becomes final bag holder of a system that actually is no longer supported by international demand, and by kind of restricting retail access to yield, right? Denying stablecoin users the ability to earn treasury rates directly. The system is consolidating profits among that select few: Cantor Fitzgerald, BlackRock, and their stablecoin subsidiaries, right? So meanwhile, the Bitcoin that they actually acquire with those profits is held in their strategic reserves that are far from the hands of the average citizen. And this is how that fiat Ponzi evolves into a kind of a digital feudalism, where your wallet becomes a node of surveillance and control, while capital quietly is migrating offshore. And the most dangerous illusion is that this is being done in the name of America first, right? In truth, the US has become a primary collateral pool in a global financial arbitrage. Homelessness, addiction, crumbling infrastructure, civic decay are all signs of a nation under attack. You know, these are not signs of a nation under attack, but literally a nation that's being harvested, right? So from the Fed's private shareholder structure to the revolving door between the banks and the regulators, and that apparatus of the US system that is financialized beyond recognition. It's no longer a government, it's literally a portfolio, and Americans are merely just the underlying assets there. And while the West is, you know, retooling that Ponzi for the digital age, right, the global South is quietly preparing for the future. Sovereign wealth funds are stacking their stats. Bitcoin mining is proliferating in energy-rich, debt-light jurisdictions. You've got settlements shifting from Swift to Bitcoin rails in a world, this new world. You really just are looking at Bitcoin as not just an asset here, but an infrastructure. From the UAE to Nigeria, from El Salvador to Kazakhstan, forward-looking nations are acquiring economic power, not through conquest, but through that protocol, right? So these are not just emerging markets, they're sovereign actors that are reclaiming the right to settle trade in their own terms outside of that US dollar system. So, you know, you're not also powerless, right? In this shift, you have to just act. Self-custody, definitely non-negotiable. Your Bitcoin is not yours until you hold the keys, guys. So use Web3 wallets like MetaMask, Exodus, etc., or hardware wallets like Ledger, Trezor, to make sure you guys have complete control of your funds. Avoid leverage traps, right? Every cycle, Wall Street pretty much creates products to strip you of your coins through rehypothecation and also just margin liquidation. And, you know, watch what they do and not what they say, right? If BlackRock, Trump, and Elon Musk are accumulating Bitcoin while telling you to trust the system, you know, just believe their actions. Exit that fiat illusion as much as you can, whether you know, spending locally, avoiding surveillance, investing in parallel economies, whatever you do, right? Educate yourself, organize, build, make sure, you know, you are part of this new financial pivot. And Bitcoin can be definitely your out. It's not just a passive solution. It requires you guys to act, and it requires you to have the courage, and it requires you to have the clarity of the game that's being played. Because while they're orchestrating the controlled demolition of the fiat order, you must build the foundation of the next system, which is really the Bitcoin network, and do that one block at a time, guys. I just wanted to cover that and give you some information. I've got a great article with some charts and graphics that really demonstrate all the data that I covered here. Make sure you check out the links in the description. Get started with the best cryptocurrency exchange platforms. The links are all down below. Make sure you secure your Bitcoin. Once you get it off the exchange, you put it into cold storage and you hold your bags. All right, so like, share, subscribe, turn on the notifications, guys. I will see you in the next videos. Peace.